When I got home from driving for dollars, I was on the county records looking up the names and addresses so that we could mail these people. And I saw on that property the LLC name and a P.O. box, and I didn't want to send a letter to a P.O. box. So I pulled up the deed to see if I could find an address to mail on the deed. And I saw the title company on the deed is the same title company that we use to close all of our deals. And the title agent is the same lady that we used. And I said, well, I wonder if she knows. And so I called her on the spot. I said, hey, do you know, Mr. XYZ? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. She was like, do you want to talk to him? And I was like, I'd love to talk to him.
Welcome to the BiggerPockets Best Deal Ever show. I'm your lovable host, Ken Corsini, who with my wife, Anita, have flipped over 800 houses in Atlanta since 2005 and even have a show on HGTV. But this show isn't about us. It's about all the amazing real estate investors out there that are crushing it. It's about their stories, their best deals, how they sourced them, how they funded them, and what we can learn from their experiences. This is the Best Deal Ever show. Hey, this is Ken Corsini with the Best Deal Ever show. On today's episode, I am joined by Henry Washington. Henry, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. How are you?
Good. So good to have you. So interesting fun fact. So Henry and I actually met at the BiggerPockets conference, 2 months back, right?
Couple of months back, yeah.
So it pays to spend a little extra to go to the cocktail hour the Sunday before and hang out at the bar, right?
Right. So funny story about that. Pro tip, didn't get my ticket in time to get a cocktail hour ticket, so I crashed.
He crashed the party? Oh, no.
Crashed and they let me in. They felt bad for me.
That's hilarious. All right. Well, we won't tell anybody that you crashed the party.
Right. We'll keep it a secret.
Yeah. But it was awesome, right? I mean, it was crazy.
The whole event was awesome, man. The networking events were just, that alone was worth the price of admission.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. Yeah. We met so many people, including yourself, and everybody felt like was doing deals, was doing really cool things. I mean, you and I are sitting there at the bar talking, and in the last 2 years, you've accumulated 40 rentals. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's unbelievable. Is this your full-time gig, I'm assuming, at this point?
No. I have a full-time gig. Yeah, this is all part-time still.
Well, so what do you do full-time?
I do data and analytics for a large retail company out here.
Okay. And do they know that on the side you're hustling on the side?
Oh yeah, I tell everybody. They're
They probably want to quit and do what you're doing.
Right.
That's amazing. Okay, so you're in Arkansas. What's the town in Arkansas?
I live in Springdale, Arkansas, and I work in Bentonville, Arkansas, and most of my properties are in and around about 4 cities up here: Springdale, Rogers, Bentonville, Fayetteville. We're all kind of bunched together, so my properties are spread out across those areas.
Okay. Obviously, I recognize Fayetteville, University of Arkansas there. And that's, what are these, I'm assuming this is a good rental market. Obviously college towns usually make for good rental markets. What about the rest of those towns?
Yeah, the rental market's great. So you have several large corporations out here that bring lots of people from all over the world to live here, and so as you can imagine, a lot of them rent, and so you can really buy inexpensive real estate because it's still Arkansas, and you can get really good rents because the rental market is there, and get lots of quality renters.
Where's the Walmart headquarters in comparison to where you are?
Bentonville, Arkansas is the Walmart headquarters, and I live in Springdale, so it's about a 15-minute drive, 30-minute drive with traffic.
Goodness gracious. You got Walmart, you got a university, you got a couple other major employers too, don't you?
Yeah. JB Hunt is here.
Okay.
Tyson Chicken is here. And then you've got all of these companies that are suppliers to these larger companies that have like satellite offices here. So it's a pretty unique market.
No kidding, man. And so you just one day are like, you know what? I need to start accumulating some rental properties. I'm going to go out there and start buying. How did that come about?
Yeah, I panicked my way into it. I went from single to married in 365 days. So we got married a day, 1 year to the day we met, and realized that the single spending every bit of my paycheck lifestyle wasn't going to do as well with a wife who wanted to have a kid come sometime soon.
Right.
So I freaked out and started Googling in the middle of the night one night how to make passive income, and rentals kept coming up. And I thought to myself, I could be a landlord. I had no idea I could, but I just was like, yeah, I could do that. And talked to a realtor friend of mine the next day, and she brought me a box of books and said, pick one. And I picked Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then I got hooked. So,
everybody does, man. That is the book. It's amazing how many people I've spoken to that's the book that changes everything for them.
That's it. Yeah, man.
That's fantastic. So let me ask you a question. How are you sourcing most of these deals in Arkansas?
Sure. Most of the deals that I get are either sourced through direct mail or I have a lead generation website.
Okay. All right. Are you doing any pay-per-click or anything like that?
Yeah. I have a Google AdWords campaign that runs on that to help increase the leads.
So just give me just like a flavor. What's the taste of what you're paying for houses there and what they're renting for?
Sure. Man, it depends on the size, man. I've paid as little as $30,000 for a house, and it's renting for $800 right now. I didn't do a thing to it.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I've paid as much as for a single family. I think the most I've paid is around. I paid $115. My very first rental was $115, and it was renting for $1,100. But that tenant moved out, and I'm doing a little renovation, so I'm going to ask $12 or $1,300. It just depends. And so the $30,000 house, much older house, smaller house, and the $115,000 house is I think it was built in 2003, 2004.
Okay. Wow.
Brick on all sides. Good solid house.
Yeah. But most of your rentals are they below 100,000 then?
Most of the single families for sure. I have a lot of duplexes.
Okay.
Several duplexes that make up most of the portfolio. And so,
interesting.
See, the most I paid for a duplex, I believe, is $167, and that was a 2-2 on each side, but it was a big 2-2, and then we converted. They had 1-car garages that we converted to a bedroom, so now they're 3-2s.
Nice.
But the area, those are right next to Walmart's building a brand new home office campus facility, and so that's up there right by that. And so I was willing to pay a little more.
Sure.
Betting a little bit on the come for that one.
Yeah. But for the most part, you're destroying the 1% price to rent ratio. It sounds like in most cases.
For the most part, the direct mail really helps find the undervalued deals, and then, like I said, you can get really good rents, especially if you renovate these things and make them desirable to the young professionals that are moving here for these companies.
And I can't imagine there's a ton of competition. They're probably not seeing a lot of direct mail.
I think it's increased over the past couple of years. Just, real estate investing popularity has just increased nationwide. And I think it's gone up. But, kind of what I've found is people are kind of testing the waters with direct mail. And so that they may not be as serious as you need to be successful. I mean,
good point.
I've called bandit signs that I see on the side of the road just to see who's on the other end of the phone, maybe what kind of deals they have.
Yep.
And man, sometimes you'll call, and I remember one time I called a bandit sign because I kept seeing him around, and the guy answers the phone. He goes, "Yeah." I said, good start. I said, is this, We Buy Houses or whatever? And he was like, yeah. I said, do you have any houses? Well, so it's,
oh my gosh,
it's,
rookie.
So I feel like just by having some sense of professionalism and customer service, you kind of set yourself apart from the competition.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of folks that are just getting in, they'll mail once or twice and then give up.
Right.
That's not how it works. Or I guess a few bandit signs and they call it good. Yeah. So you've done 40 doors in the last 2 years while working a full-time job. I'm sure that there is one deal in particular that stands out to you as your best deal ever. What does it look like?
Absolutely. So our best deal ever, I would say we bought it's 8 units. It's 4 duplexes, but they were on 2 lots, and we purchased them all together. So 4 duplexes we purchased in Fayetteville, Arkansas, bought them as a means to renovate them and rent them out. It was, we found it in a really unique way. So we had, I have a business partner. We were driving for dollars one day, and we were mainly looking at single family homes, and we came across an apartment complex, a small apartment complex, and the roof just looked really, really bad. And so I said, so we said, let's just add this to the list and mail them because it looks like it's in some level of distress. When I got home from driving for dollars, I was on the county records looking up the names and addresses so that we could mail these people. And I saw on that property the LLC name and a PO box, and I didn't want to send a letter to a PO box, so I pulled up the deed to see if I could find an address to mail on the deed, and I saw the title company on the deed is the same title company that we use to close all of our deals, and the title agent is the same lady that we used. And I said, well, I wonder if she knows this gentleman that owns this property. And so I called her on the spot. I said, hey, do you know Mr. XYZ? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. She was like, do you want to talk to him? And I was like, I'd love to talk to him. And so she called him and set up a meeting for my business partner and I to go and talk with him about this property. And so we went and we sat down for lunch one day, and we talked with him about it, and he took us over there, and it turned out that wasn't going to be a deal we were going to be able to buy due to zoning and some different things. But at the end of the meeting, my partner and I just said, well, you got anything else you want to get rid of? And he was like, I mean, I got some rundown duplexes, but I mean, you don't want these. And we were like, no, we probably do.
Yeah, actually, let me take a look. That's
right.
amazing.
Yeah, man. So that's kind of how we found it, and we went from there.
So he takes you over to these rundown duplexes. It's 8 units. And does he throw a price out there, or are you just like, what the heck? What is this?
No. I think he was expecting to take us over there and then us go, you know what? Now we're good. Right? 'Cause this place was rough, man. It was rough. No one should have been living there. There was only, I'd say, two of the 8 units that what I would call inhabitable. I mean, one of the buildings was down to the studs, and it was holes in the roof, and it was raining inside. And
oh gosh,
one of the units, we walked in the front door, and there was like a bird's nest in the light fixtures and drug paraphernalia on the walls. Like it was a rough place. I mean, how we got into some of these units was we had to get the drill out and unscrew they just had screwed the door shut because people kept kicking them in and going in and trying to, take copper and those things. So
were any of them rented? Was anybody living in any of them?
There was 2 people. 2 people were living there, and like I said, those were probably the only 2 units that someone should have been living in.
And guaranteed they were not paying rent. You live in something like that, you ain't paying to live there.
I would say there was deferred maintenance, so no, they weren't paying rent. Yeah, so no, he didn't throw out a price. He just said, I just want to get enough to pay off the bank for whatever the loan was. And so we had no clue how much that was. And so we initially made a super low ball offer. I mean, I think we offered like $100,000 for everything.
Right.
And he said no.
Sorry. Yeah.
So we did some back and forth. And at the end of the back and forth, we ended up paying $200,000 for all 4 duplexes, which also came with 2 vacant lots, because it used to be 6 duplexes, but drugs are bad, so those burned down.
They will catch fire if you are cooking something up that you shouldn't be cooking. You can burn that place down. So $200,000. So it's $25,000 a unit, plus you get some bonus padded lots.
Yep, exactly.
And so, so how did you fund this thing? He's $200,000. Who was willing to step up and fund this?
Yeah, so we did we work with a small regional bank out here, and we sent them the deal. And at that price point, that's just not something people normally get to buy. 8 doors for $200,000.
Yeah.
So they wanted to come take a look at it. So they came out. They toured the property. We talked them through what we were planning to do to it. They had seen some of our other work before, so they kind of knew, the quality of the product that we produce.
Yep.
And so because we were buying it so cheap, I think our renovation budget ended up being, I think we budgeted about $140,000 for the total reno for everything. And so they were willing to allow us to only have to put in a 10% down payment. So we got in.
Dang.
We got in really cheap.
That included 10% for the acquisition and 10% for the reno? They funded 90% of the renovation?
They funded 100% of the renovation. So we put 10% of the purchase price down. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. $20,000 and they funded everything.
That's right.
And then I'm sure the interest rate was awesome if it being a local bank.
Yeah. Interest rate was good. It was a little over 5%, I believe, at the time.
And was this like a 1 year or a 3 year? What was it?
It was a 1 year, and we've since extended it.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So and did you end up putting 140 into the renovation? Could you stick to that budget?
Yeah. Yeah. So where we stand now is we've renovated 3 of the 4 buildings.
Okay.
Right. And if you think about, only a $200,000 plus, what we've got in it from a renovation standpoint, we are getting an average rent in those buildings of about $725 per month. So we've got 6 units averaging about $725 per month. So it cash flows well.
Oh yeah,
without that 4th building being done. So we just recently starting this 4th building. And so those rents will be about $750 each side in those last 2 units.
And you think you'll land at 140 for all 4 buildings?
That's the plan.
Hey, I mean, if you're 3 buildings in and you're hitting your numbers, that's great.
Well, the first 2 buildings we went a little over, and that's part of the lesson I learned with such a large project. We landed this deal early on in our investing life, and probably weren't as prepared from a contractor standpoint to take on something like that. But so we spent a little more on the first 2 buildings. The 3rd building we did great budget wise, and this last one I think we're going to do pretty well. So I think we're going to get close. We'll be close to budget.
Yeah. That's still amazing. Those numbers are phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, that's off the charts. And so it's in a good enough area, even though it was super run down, it's a good enough area. Once the buildings got fixed up, it attracted some pretty good tenants.
Yeah. So the bonus here is this is a cul-de-sac, and it's a small cul-de-sac. So there are only 1, 2, 3 other houses on the street that we don't own. And one of those houses has already been renovated and is very nice. So by us renovating these other buildings, we've taken the street from a low C, maybe high D, to high C, maybe low B. Kind of neighborhood, right? Just because it's the only street across the street from this cul-de-sac is all new construction, multifamily. So around it is great. It was just this one street, and because we bought most of the street, we've really turned it around.
That's key, man. If you're going to turn an area around and get as much as you can, do it all at one time, and hope some other investors get in and do the same thing, right? Because then you're all sort of benefiting together.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Okay, so what's the long-term plan for this? Are you going to exit it? You're going to refi it? What is that going to look like?
Yeah, so we're going to finish the renovation, and then we're going to refi our down payment back out, and just enjoy that cash flow from those 8 units. It's just a large cash flowing deal, and then we'll take. And then we're going to work with that same bank most likely and do some new development on those other 2 lots. And the benefit to these lots is they're zoned residential multifamily 24 unit, so 24 units per acre. So we can probably get another 4 units per lot.
Wow.
Depending on the setbacks and those kinds of things. So there's still even more potential with this deal.
Goodness gracious, that's amazing. When you refi, you think you're going to stick with that same bank? Will they give you some longer term financing?
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. They've been really good with us on this deal, and hopefully they're seeing some value from us as well on this deal. So yeah, absolutely.
Man, local banks can be amazing resource if you build a good relationship with them and they get to know you. It sounds like what you've done for short term and some longer term financing. That's awesome. You've already done that. Absolutely. Very cool. Okay, so obviously still only 2 years in, you've landed a pretty hot deal. What have you learned from this deal specifically that's going to carry you in your future business?
A couple of things. First and foremost, anytime you're having a meeting with an investor, right? Somebody who owns property, ask them if they've got something they don't want. Just throw it out there, right? Because you never know what kind of situation they're in and what kind of capital they may need at the moment, right? They may want to dump their problem property on you. And if you're a new investor, problem properties are money, right? So ask the question always. We were so new to investing when we landed this deal. We just didn't have processes in place to find and retain good contractors, especially for such a deal that required so much work. I mean, these were very dilapidated. So when we first started, we were constantly meeting contractors out at the property, and then they would see it and someone would be like, they didn't think it would be worth the time and the effort because it was so much work and it was going to take so much of their time. Right.
Yeah.
So, had we had some processes in place that we do now. So now we put together spec sheets at a high level of detail, but still enough so that we're sending these spec sheets out prior to them coming to see the property.
Nice.
We want you to know the size of the prize beforehand. We want you to know how much work this is going to be. So you can have an estimate of, do you even have the crew to support this kind of thing? To save us time, to save you time, right? So that you're mentally prepared before you get there, and they weren't in such a, shock when they got there. And I think that helped tremendously. We ended up having we had one crew do the first 2 properties, and they did a great job. We spent more than we wanted to, like I said, but they did a great job on the renovation. And then we had a different crew do this last one, and it was much faster. It was much more efficient because we had some processes in place by that time.
Do you feel like you've got to the point where you can actually do your own scope of work and then hand it to a contractor and say, here's the price for this job. Are you willing to do it for this price?
Yes. Yeah,
okay. That's where you want to get. Yeah. You really don't want a contractor to tell you what their price is. You want to say, here's my price. Are you willing to do it for this much?
Yep. And that's really what we did on this third building. We knew what we wanted to pay, and we specifically looked for somebody who was going to do it for that price. And that saved us a lot of time. Several people just didn't want to do it for what we wanted to pay, and it worked out well.
Sometimes it just takes time and experience, and you get your education on how to deal with contractors and what's a fair price in your market. I mean, it's different, but you've done enough deals now. You've sort of learned that and honed it in.
Absolutely.
Man, Henry, this is awesome. I tell you what, in 2 years' time to have accumulated 40 rentals while working a full-time job is amazing. So congrats to you. And this deal is fantastic, man. Lots of good truths to extract from this one. So, man, thanks so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Hey, thank you very much.
All right, take care. Thanks for listening to the Best Deal Ever show, brought to you by BiggerPockets. If you've been energized, entertained, or enlightened by today's show, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Ken Corsini, or check us out online at redbarnhomes.com. And don't forget, one man's best deal ever may be the inspiration you need to create your next best deal. So hope to see you on the next episode.